Okay, hey vlog. So for those that don't know, there's a new Hunger Games book that's coming out next week. Very excited about that. It's called Sunrise on the Reaping. As a literature major and someone who grew up reading those books, I'm very excited for that. The only thing is I haven't read the books in a long time. I've seen the movies a bunch and I've definitely seen those more often. But like, I'm gonna be honest, I think I've only read each of the books maybe once, and that's it. The Hunger Games itself, I haven't read probably since like 2010. So it's been a long time. All of that to say, I'm rereading The Hunger Games right now. I bought all of the books because I don't have any of them with me. And so I wanted to kind of like, I don't know, I guess just like document me rereading this series. I think it's silly, so I'll be doing check-ins as I go through it. Obviously, leading up to me reading the newest book, Sunrise on the Reaping. Next week is when it comes out. The new book comes out next week, but I'm not expecting to finish all 4 of these books within a week. That would be very impressive of me and at a pace I've not been at for a long time. I've got The Hunger Games right here.
Are you coming?
I'm only like 50 pages in and I just started reading it today. But I think like one of the biggest things was I totally forgot that Madge is the one that gives, I forgot Madge was a character in all honesty, but I forgot she was the one who gives Katniss the mockingjay pin. And I just got to the part where she's explaining where she met Peeta for the first time. That obviously we knew about from the movies, but I'm sure there's going to be little moments like that where I'm just so used to the movies at this point that I kind of forget the details of the books. I'm just gonna keep rolling with this video idea, and this will probably take a long time, but I kind of want to just document it, and I think it's silly. So as some stuff comes up while I'm reading, I'll whip out the camera and talk about it quickly. But yeah, those are my initial thoughts on the Hunger Games. This book I definitely haven't read in at least a decade, probably like 15 years if we're being honest. Yeah, I'm 24. Okay, maybe like 9 years. Shut the fuck up. Math, not my thing. That's okay. Reading is my thing. And that's why we're making this video. I don't know. We'll talk later. I don't know when I'll see you next. I don't know what'll come up for me, but I'll see you when I see you, I guess. Okay, we are officially on day 2 of the Hunger Games reread. I'm at page 100, so I'm around like a quarter of the way done with the book. I'm having a blast. I'm loving it. I realize why this is a great series, why people love it. I love it too. I just haven't read it in a long time. I was actually thinking about the last time that I read the Hunger Games, and I realized this was actually, I don't remember if it was the series. I think it was one of, but I think it was the book series that got me out of a reading slump back into reading after my mom passed away. I do remember that being a thing, because I remember I had my brother's hand-me-down books. I remember reading The Hunger Games in 6th grade, and I think the movie was about to come out, but I remember reading these books shortly after my mom passed away. Because that's the last time that I've read those books. There's a part of me that thinks about the last time I read these books and what I was going through and the life I've led since then. Anyways, back to the book itself. I've got a couple of notes, and I think this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to do some updates as I go. So my notes so far for The Hunger Games, book 1, and I totally forgot about these, but Avoxes, the people who get their tongues cut off, and how Katniss recognizes one of them from the other side of the fence. Forgot that was a thing. They really don't touch on those in the movie at all. Kind of surprised. Totally forgot about them. And then the last thing that pretty much prompted me to stop reading and whip the camera out right now is the fact that the very first time that we meet Rue in the training center, when she's kind of like shadowing Peeta and Katniss a little bit, the very first time we meet her is at the spear throwing station, and Katniss throws the spear, and that's when she notices Rue for the first time. Spoiler alert for a book that's been out for almost 2 decades in a movie that's been out for around the same amount of time. That's how Rue fucking dies, and it was all just foreshadowing, and that's crazy. And Suzanne Collins, you deserve life in prison for that. Yeah, those are kind of my thoughts right now. Don't really have anything else to report than the fact that I am enjoying this reread. I'm actually going through this book pretty quickly. I was in a bit of a reading slump before this, a bit behind on my reading goals for the year. So I think I might be able to finish this series a bit faster than I expected. Obviously the pub date for Sunrise on the Reaping is in just a few days, so I'm definitely not going to be able to finish the book series by the time that book comes out, but I might be able to at least be on book 2 or maybe book 3 by then. Maybe just book 2. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. It might just be Catching Fire. Okay, so book 1 has been finished. There was a lot that either, 1, I forgot, 2, I probably just like glazed over because I didn't fully grasp it. And just some things that I think the movie, because I've seen it so much more, morphed into my understanding of the Hunger Games. Like, I'm not belittling the movies, I'm not diminishing the book in any way. Like, I forgot that Katniss goes deaf, and I forgot that Peeta loses a leg. I remember people like talking about it in passing, and I was like, yeah. But for some reason I thought that, at least Peeta's leg, for some reason I thought happened later in the series, like kind of when he gets kidnapped. But I didn't realize that happens in book 1 with all the blood poisoning stuff. Probably should have been taking notes this whole time. Oh, the other thing, book Peeta, I do not remember being this flirty, having this much banter, having this much game. I was like kicking my feet, I was giggling. It was crazy. Toward the end of the book when they were in the cave and they're like flirting a little, like, oh my god, that was crazy. I was blushing. And I don't ever remember having a reaction to book Peeta that way. I don't even really have a reaction to Joss Hutcherson that way, which I know that's on me. But yeah, so those are kind of like my thoughts of the Hunger Games. I'm going to start Catching Fire now, but I did also buy Sunrise on the Reaping already. The book came out while I was finishing up, and I'm not going to read it, but I do have her, like she's right here. I'm excited to keep going. I'm excited to finally get to Sunrise on the Reaping, but I've got a little bit of a ways to go. I've got a whole rebellion to read through and then a whole backstory on President Snow to read through. I'll get to you, Haymitch. I'll get to you when I get to you. I'll probably have more thoughts on the second one because I think that's kind of when things start to kick into high gear. And that's kind of all my thoughts so far.
To the tree.
So, I finished Catching Fire. I don't think I did any updates on Catching Fire. I think I just powered right through it. Admittedly, I am also partway through Mockingjay. And by partway, I mean like 20 pages in. I finished this last night, and then I was like, I have to go right into the next one. I did write down some thoughts to discuss because I realized I didn't like Catching Fire. I remember not liking it. I remember liking book 1 and book 3 a lot more. And I thought that this kind of had like the book 2 slump. I don't think I agree with that now. I don't think I agree with that now. I always had a weird relationship with it because I loved the movie, but then I remembered at like age 10 not liking the book. And I think it was just because a lot of it was going over my head. I wasn't understanding what was happening. I do think this is a much better reread than I think the other 2 books are. Part of me thinks Ballad will be an interesting reread too, but this one in particular because now I know, okay, everyone is going out of their way to save Katniss, and Katniss is confused, and I think that that was confusing me on my first read, and now on the flip side, it's interesting to read it with that knowledge of like, with Plutarch at the beginning with the Watch and all of the tributes giving up their lives just trying to save Katniss. And I am excited to say that my viewpoint on Catching Fire has changed. The ending, still gagged. There is no more District 12. Gag of the century. But yeah, and then there was a lot that I forgot about this book, mostly because like I've said, everything is just, in my brain, has always been the movies for the last decade or so. Totally forgot about Bonnie and Twill. Forgot that was a thing. I forgot that District 13 was introduced in this book. I thought it was like, at the very end, there's no more District 12, we're going to District 13. And Katniss was like, well, what do you mean District 13? That's another thing where it's like, that's because of the movies. I am far enough into Mockingjay to know that Bonnie and Twill don't make it. They're dead. Some other things that I forgot about was how serious they took the games this time around, especially Peeta, once they were announced in the Court of Quill to be the tributes, and how they were training like careers for it. I thought that was interesting. And at the same time, these 2 things definitely forgot about. I forgot that like they overtook District 12. I forgot about the stuff with Gale, with the turkey, and getting caught. And then I also forgot, in that same vein, that Darius becomes an Avox. But that's also, we've talked about this, I forgot about Avoxes. I forgot they were a thing. So, oh my god, the picnic that Katniss and Peeta have when they're on the roof. So Haymitch and Effie cancel their training sessions after they pull all the tricks and the stunts that they pull. And then they just have a nice moment on the roof. And oh my god, that was such a tender moment because it's really one of the last happy moments between Katniss and Peeta that we will see for a long time, especially when we get into Mockingjay. And I truly think this is just me forgetting the names of people. Totally thought that Mags was the one that said TikTok, not Wireless. When Mags died, I was like, wait, but she hasn't said TikTok yet. And then I was like, it's because it's not her. Oh, and then the other thing that I was thinking of as I was reading it is I was thinking about the arena being a clock and how you kind of have to be in the right place at the right time, or the wrong place at the wrong time, I guess, to experience all these things. And then in my head, I was like, hypothetically, there is a world where a tribute, and this obviously doesn't happen, but like I just think that's a stupid idea to set up an arena like that. But there is a world where a tribute can go into the arena and not experience anything. Like if they just happen to be walking around in the direction of the circle, like there is a world where they're like, oh wow, there's nothing coming to kill me right now. So bad design. I guess I want more people to die. And then my last note about Catching Fire was I did think I'd hate it on the reread. So the note that I wrote down was that I would hate it because I know going into it that everyone is trying to help Katniss. So there isn't that mystery of like, oh, what's going on here? But I do think, and I said this before, but I do think that is what made me like it so much. I think that was one of the reasons I didn't like it, and I think that's one of the main reasons why I like it now. And then I've got 3 more books to get through, so. Okay, book 3. I finished this 2 days ago, I think, and now I'm finally sitting down to record my thoughts. For starters, this is definitely the book, the movie, the story, just in general, that I remember the least. Like, I think I can count on one hand the amount of times I rewatched the Mockingjay movies, which translates to me not really remembering Mockingjay the book. I also did this thing a lot when I was growing up where I was reading books so fast. I don't remember plots of books that I read when I was younger. And this is definitely one of them. And it's like pretty long. I think this is like the longest section of notes that I have. Mostly just a lot of like random thoughts, not really anything like thought-provoking, because the first one I wrote is, man, fuck coin for real. Like that's it. I don't even remember what it was about. I'm assuming it was just about her meeting Katniss for the first time, kind of being standoffish, whatever. The next thing I wrote is, I kind of wish we knew what led to the downfall of America pre-Hunger Games. Do I wish we knew what happened? I think I wished when I was reading this, it would be nice to kind of have that context of like what led up to the war, what led up to the Dark Days, because that's not really something that we see. And then obviously in Ballad, we learn about the immediate aftermath and kind of what happened in those few years after the war. But I don't really know if this is something that I want. I think I do want to learn about it. I think it's just times right now are eerily, not similar, but similarly scary. I'll say that. I don't remember Haymitch being... Oh, I misread my notes. I thought that my note said, I don't remember Haymitch being in this story. And I was like, what the fuck do you mean you don't remember Haymitch being in Mockingjay? I don't remember Haymitch being this scary. I didn't remember how like standoffish him and Katniss were. Like so standoffish against each other. They were butting heads this whole book. And especially at the beginning. Another thing that I did while reading, which I'm most likely going to do during Ballad, like I listened to The Hanging Tree while I was reading it. I also did this during the Hunger Games I listened to in the Meadow, and I feel like that's just a nice way to like immerse myself into the world, so I will most likely be doing that with Ballad, because when I read Ballad for the first time, the movie hadn't come out yet, the soundtrack hadn't come out yet either, so. Okay, so this book, one of the things that I remember, I'm talking a lot about Ballad right now, but this is mostly about the movie press tour, something along the lines of like, Katniss is a fighter forced to perform, and Lucy Gray is a performer forced to fight. And I think you can really see that in this book. I mean, it's like kind of on full display. Katniss is really struggling with the performativeness of being the Mockingjay, but this like it takes it to a new level, and we really see Katniss start to struggle with that. That was just something that I was thinking about a lot while reading this book, in that like battle within her of who she is expected to be, just because of this role that she's stumbled into. The other thing, I forgot how little of Effie we see in this book. Like I forgot that she's not in this book at all, really, until the very end. And even then, I wouldn't say she's in the book. But in the movies, like, she is in it. Obviously, I think that's like an Elizabeth Banks thing. I think keeping Effie in the story in the movies, with Effie being kept into the story, we see a complete arc happen for her throughout the series. Next up, my next thought was, just gonna read this verbatim. Katniss and Peeta, kind of the situationship from hell, and then I say, but still not as bad as my 2023 situationship. They go from hating each other to liking each other to hating each other to liking each other to wanting to kill one another at various times. Katniss wanted to kill him at the beginning, Peeta wanted to kill her at the end. My next note, there's just too many people. There's too many people in District 13, there's too many people in the Capitol, there's too many people in the Rebel base in District 2. There's just too many new people, and we get names for every single one. I couldn't tell you a single one of their names. Unless it was like Finnick, and Gale, and Peeta. But like, there were so many deaths, and they were just very insignificant, besides Boggs. But there's just too many new people, and it's just too hard to keep track of. We're meeting like 30 new characters in this book, all in all. And then there's also insignificant people like Deli Cartwright. Why did she need to come in? Why did we get rid of Madge? I found it hard to care about most people in this book, unless they were people that we met previously, just because we spend so little time with them. We don't really know much about them. I think, which also could just be part of like Katniss being in kind of, I don't want to say an unreliable narrator in this one, because I know she gets that accusation thrown around a lot. I don't agree. I don't think she's an unreliable narrator, but I think there's too many. I think we could have cut down. We could have trimmed the fat. The other thing I don't care about is once we get to the Capitol blocks. Oh my god. And I remember feeling this way when I was a kid. Oh my god, it is so boring. I literally don't care at all. I don't care. I didn't really start to care about the Capitol until like, I guess like kind of the sewers. And they're going through these blocks so fast. Let's get to the action. I'm tired of, and I guess that is action, but it's also like not really action. Like we could have, once again, we could have trimmed down on some of the fat. I'm not saying I have the best thoughts about the way that the series should have run. I just didn't like it. And then the last thing, I just go, Prim, sad face. The first time that I read the scene with Prim dying, when I was like 11, 12 years old, I am a fast reader. I want to say that. Or once I get into things, like once I get into books, I'm a very fast reader. And I kind of, and this is like it's a bad habit that I have, but sometimes I'll like skim through the prose and then I'll just keep looking for the dialogue to keep the story going. I fully glazed over it because they don't explicitly say Prim. I did not understand that. I distinctly remember having to go back and reread it and be like, what the fuck just happened? And then I was like, oh, Prim just died. So that was also like crazy. Literally this whole thing started because she wanted to save Prim and then she couldn't save Prim in the end. But those are my thoughts on Mockingjay. 2 more books, so I will see you when I'm done. I don't even know what part this is in the Hunger Games reread, but this is part 1 of Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I'm about like 100 pages in. It's taken me a while to get there, simply because this is finals and life and work has been busy. So we're about to hit the interview portion where she's gonna sing, "When I was a babe, I fell into the harbor." Whatever the fuck she sings. So I have honestly a lot of thoughts. One of the first things that I didn't think about when I was reading this book for the first time, and I guess it was just because I hadn't read the original 3 since I was like 10 years old, and then this one I read in 2020 when it came out. This is the only book that's told in 3rd person, which is very interesting, and that had to have been a purposeful decision. I thought at first, I was like, okay, when I first realized that this was in 3rd person and the original trilogy wasn't, I was like, okay, maybe it's because any story that's not about Katniss she wants to tell in 3rd person. But no, it looks like Sunrise and the Reaping is told in 1st person, which is very interesting that this is the one that's like the one that's about President Snow and the one that's about Coriolanus when he's younger and kind of what brings him to this point. It's very interesting that this is the only one that's told in 3rd person. And so I only have a couple other thoughts. July 4th is crazy to just drop that in there. I think that's also what they dropped to be Haymitch's birthday for Sunrise. I think I've seen that in the promotional stuff where they say that Haymitch's birthday is on Reaping Day. That's crazy. My next thought is that one of the things that I really want to see, and like we're never gonna see it, but I want to know how pissed off Snow was when he became president and then he found out that District 13 actually wasn't bombed into oblivion and his family just lost his fortune because of a ceasefire deal. I just know he was pissed off. Kind of all that I got so far. I'm only in the first 100 pages. Love Lucy Gray. Yeah, I mean, this is another book where she's starting to sing and I'm playing the songs along with it, which I think is just, it enhances the experience just a wee bit. This is another one where they've cut out a lot just for the runtime of the movie, and I think it served the movie better. And I think they cut out that one teacher that Coriolanus really gets along with, and one of the kind of things that goes unspoken between them is they both seem to be poorer than the rest. And there was an instance, I think it was on Reaping Day, where that professor, she complimented Coriolanus's appearance. He did the same for her, saying, "Oh, this is a new dress, right?" And he was like, "I've fully seen this dress before. Like, she's worn this before." Lizzie McGuire, you are an outfit repeater. Well, Coriolanus Snow, you are an outfit rememberer. And arguably, that's worse. Yeah, that's kind of all that I got. I will check back in when I'm either finished or a little bit further into this book. So, we'll see. Okay, finished Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes. I've only got like a few thoughts to get through. There's not really like anything crazy. One of the things that, I mean, a lot of this is just things that I forget. And I guess that's also part of why it's like revisiting, because there's just some things that I forget over time. And now I'm remembering them now that I'm reading them. But this book I read in like 2020 when it first came out. But I forgot that they forced the tributes to come to Arachne's funeral. And then again, they do it for the twins and they put on this whole show, and that the tributes are paraded around just to display the capital's power. I feel like that's something that we don't really see in the 74th and the 75th Hunger Games. I feel like we do see it to a certain extent, but I feel like the games are so much more, there's a higher entertainment factor in the 74th and 75th games. This is kind of like a reoccurring thing. Some of the stuff in this book is very corny and very cheesy. It's just the prequel curse, I guess. Like, prequels, at least to me, they're always going to do this in some way or another. Like, Lucy Gray was the one to tell Coriolanus about mockingjays for the first time, and she has the thing with the Katniss root, and they are always, literally always saying, "May the odds be ever in your favor," and they're kind of like drilling it home. And I'm like, oh my god, that is so corny. Especially the "I like Katniss better." It's just corny to me, and like, I get it, because like Suzanne Collins definitely thought she ate with that, and she did to a certain extent, but I just don't like it. Oh, another thing that I forgot about was I thought the plinth prize was always there. At the beginning, they're talking about winning the games, you get enough money to go to university, and then the plinths basically just offer the same thing. So I don't really know why there was a need to do that. So Coriolanus wanting to do well in the games at the beginning was because he wanted to get the prize to go to university. And then his motivation later on in the games is to get this new prize that gives him the exact same thing that he would have gotten anyways, but now it's just for the winner instead of just doing well overall. But he always wanted to win overall because he wanted Lucy Gray to be alive, and he promised her to get her out. A little confusing, and it's hard to justify why they felt the need to do that. I don't know what they could have done. Maybe just not done the plinth prize at all, or have it have been there in the beginning like I think they did with the movie. I think that's just a smoother, the 11th hour edition of the plinth prize. It wasn't needed, I don't think. And another thing was that the games don't end when Lucy Gray sings to the snakes. That's how it ends in the movie. And I've also listened to the soundtrack a lot, so that the soundtrack is likely why I have had that drilled into my memory, because in the soundtrack they're like, "Dr. Gall, she won, pull her out, she won," whatever. The games don't end at that point. The games go on for a little bit longer, which was interesting. Nothing bad, I just totally forgot about that. Oh, one thing I wrote, I said Smiley and Bug are crazy names to introduce after all the Academy names. After Lysistrata and after Coriolanus. Like, Smiley and Bug. Crazy. Also, speaking about characters, I feel like she did a much better job of handling a whole new crop of characters than she did in Mockingjay. And she does a good job even with the characters that don't have a lot of screen time. I feel like she did a really good job here of keeping them incorporated into the story while also making you care for them. And then if people leave or if people die or whatever it might have you really felt connected to them. So the next thing I wrote, "Forgot Lucy Gray wrote The Hanging Tree, ... but she likely did not sign off on the Rebel remix." Like, okay. I think I wrote that at like 11 p.m. when I was like reading before bed. I probably had sipped my sleepy time tea by then, and I was just writing whatever the fuck I wanted to write. So Coriolanus It really got by the end. And I mean, this is his whole thing about control and control. He's just so disgusting. He keeps saying, I only see Grace, she's mine, I own her, she belongs to me. Oh my god, we get it. Okay, you have man issues. Like, shut up. The other thing about Corey Lane is he's also so real for the fact that he spent, what, maybe like 3 hours in the woods, which was supposed to be his whole new life. This was what he was supposed to run away and do. And he was like, nah, I don't want to do that anymore. The first chance he got to getting out, he was like, yep, I'm taking it. I do not want to. At first, he was like, oh, the gun is here, I can discard the gun. Then there was actual reasons for him to want to quit the plants, but he was like, also, I don't want to fucking live in the woods. That is real as fuck. As a city boy, that's real as fuck. Overall, great time. Love the book. I think this is one of my favorites. I think it's up there. I think as of right now, I think Catching Fire is my favorite. Hunger Games, Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, Mockingjay. I just don't like Mockingjay. Now I'm about to dive into Sunrise on the Reaping. Sunrise on the Reaping. Honestly, finished this book a couple days ago. I pretty much flew through this. This was a very quick and easy read from start to finish. And overall, I enjoyed it. I don't think I liked it as much as everyone else has liked it. Obviously, like, this is not one of those series where I don't think I would not enjoy a book. Let's get into some of the notes that I've had, but I think the overarching one for me, it felt a little fanfiction-y. It felt a little like a teenager writing a Wattpad fanfiction, and suddenly all these characters from like a pre-existing IP all went to high school with each other. And I don't really know how I feel about that. I really like the introduction of Lenore Dove. I like that we went back to the Covey. I like that the Covey is now this new thing that is part of the essence of District 12 at this point. And I really like her as a character overall. My initial thoughts were all just kind of being like, oh, is Berta Katniss's dad? He is, and he's Covey. Are we meeting Katniss's parents? Yada, yada, yada. I have mixed feelings on that. I think that I'm fine with. He's from the seam, so is Haymitch. That might have been inevitable, and we also never meet Katniss's dad, so you could have played up more of a relationship there, but also Haymitch would have known that Katniss was... They also do kind of retcon that in the epilogue. But Katniss's mom, like, they did not talk about that at all in the existing series. They didn't have any kind of acknowledgement of their past relationship. So that's kind of where I'm like, it's things like that where I'm like, so I'm gonna skip ahead a little bit, but Mags being Haymitch's mentor, right? That, okay, that's fine. Those are two characters, didn't really interact in the existing trilogy, that's fine. I guess you could also argue that Katniss's mom and Haymitch didn't really interact, but like Haymitch and Katniss, there's too much there. Oh, so one thing that I do love, I love that Suzanne Collins saw the critique of there being too much music in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, and then when the movie came out, people were like, why are they turning Hunger Games into a musical? She said, no, I'm actually gonna double down on that. She declared herself the victor of the I don't give a fuck games and double down. I love that. I love that music is becoming this through line, especially for keeping the Covey around, because it was something that was kind of in the original trilogy, but it was diluted, and that it kind of makes sense. The trace of the Covey has died as years have gone on, but they still remain. Oh, everybody knows about this damn house by the lake, I guess. Everyone's fucking going there. Haymitch is going there, Burdick's going there. That makes sense. Lenore Dove's going there. Snow is going there. I liked it when it was Katniss's place, and then I'm like, okay, Lucy Gray's place, but now it's apparently everyone's fucking place in District 12. Oh, the Hunger Games? Low-key flops before the 74th Hunger Games. I don't know what happened in those 24 years between the 50th games and the 74th, but at least the games that Katniss experiences and like the proceedings that go on in the Capitol, they were not as messy as they were in the 50th. Oh, then it's me freaking out about Wyrus and Mags. One, that's a crazy pairing. Beedy's son, also Ampert. Oh my god. I'm not ready for that when the movie comes out. And then so at this point, after Beedy's son, this is where I made my first note of, okay, I love all these cameos. This is getting a little bit corny. I guess there's room for everybody. And then Snow. One, I love how much Haymitch is pissing off Snow. I just love that President Snow cannot escape a single person from District 12. Next note. Snow is such a miserable bitch still whining about the Covey 40 years later. Boo-hoo. I love the version of Snow that we got to see in Sunrise on the Reaping, in the sense that Suzanne Collins saw one too many thirst traps about Tom Blythe and she had to do some damage control. She had to say, no, I need to show you this man is so pathetic and he's such a loser and he's weird. It's been 40 years and you're still whining about this girl that you maybe kissed like 5 times in your whole life, because they really didn't do anything from what we saw in the book. And he's crashing out bad about the cubby. He's like, oh, well, she's gonna pretend she likes you more. Shut up, dude. You're such a loser. You're so pathetic. But then in the same vein, it's very interesting to see how Snow operates as a manipulator. You kind of got an insight onto the poisoning stuff, which Finnick went into in the original series. It was very interesting to see the way in which he wanted to, oh fuck, what's that Tiffany Pollard video? I wanted to screw with her mind. She got brain screwed. It's something like that. But that's basically what Snow was doing. I thought the portrayal of him was very fascinating. And he's only in there for a short second. And then, oh my god, and then he ends it all with the Luella Lulu body double. That's crazy. Oh, and then the Effie trinket cameo, which I liked. That's where I kind of drew the line. I'm sorry, and I know everyone wants Elle Fanning to be Effie in the movie, but that to me was kind of where I drew the line. I was like, okay, I think we could have needed everyone but Effie. Oh, this was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me in terms of the fan fiction-iness of it all. Okay, this is another critique that I had in Ballad of Songbirds and Snakes, but there's some lines in here. The one that I wrote down was that they said fire is catching. And that, to me, it's corny, and it's not even foreshadowing, and it's just an Easter egg for the sake of, like, that Leonardo DiCaprio meme where he's like, yeah, I don't know. Speaking of that meme, like, pointing at the TV and being like, oh my god, Snow showing Haymitch the Ballad of Lucy Gray performance, that crazy. So one of the things that I really liked about this book is we know so much about Haymitch's games going into this book. Katniss pretty much goes scene by scene, and then Suzanne Collins subverts that by making this all be about propaganda, saying at the end of the book, she goes, yeah, here is the clip that Katniss watched. That's not actually what happened, and they respliced the games to fit the narrative that they needed at that time. And I thought that was really interesting in the sense that it gave a more exciting read. I just think that, like, the fan service is what brought it down for me. I think what she's trying to say about the Capitol, the way that the Capitol operates, the way that they use manipulation as a way to perpetuate the Hunger Games and perpetuate the war and remain in control and power. One, I think is very timely in terms of, like, those who control the narrative can have all the power. I think I liked that aspect of this story. I liked the fact that we actually never really knew what happened in Haymitch's game, and Katniss doesn't even know what happens in Haymitch's game when we learn about it originally. Haymitch then tells her, and that's what the epilogue is for. But I think the fan service, to me, was what brought it down. But overall, like, do I still like this book? Yes. Is it leaps and bounds ahead of most other books that are out right now? Probably. Is it a good addition to the Hunger Games series? Of course. That's all I got. So, finished the series, fully revisited the Hunger Games. Some good moments, some bad moments. Overall, great series. Shout out to Suzanne Collins. You did your big one. That's it. All right.